Hi everyone, my name is Renata, and for today I have prepared the project inspired by the latest topic over at the PaperArtsy blog called Books and Journals. So welcome to my channel, and I hope you will enjoy my crafty process. I suppose a lot of you are familiar with the latest addition to the PaperArtsy design team, fabulous Kate Crane. So for this project I just couldn't resist using some of her designs. Some other products that I planned to use were PaperArtsy Mattints, and of course, according to this theme, some old books. Ideally, I would have chosen a book with a nice, pretty, vintage-looking hardcover, but at the moment I didn't have such books in my stash, and I thought let's put these not-so-pretty books to some use. Oh, and if you're wondering about the language on the books, it's Hungarian. Anyway, the first step for this project was to stamp my images. Here I am trying to show you the paper that I'm going to use, which is Canson Mixed Media Imagine and VersaFine Onyx Black ink. At this point I still wasn't sure how many elements I need for my project, so I thought maybe to stamp some double, but color them differently so they don't look like duplicates. And after stamping, the obvious next step was coloring. Here is the moment where you choose your favorite medium, but in my case I decided to put to use my beautiful birthday gift, which is Caran Luminance colored pencils. Now I won't show you my full coloring process because then it would have lasted way too long, but what I'm trying here quickly to demonstrate is how I'm building my color depth. First I colored the whole little tree with the brightest shade of green, then added the second shade going just half to the tree, and then to the bottom the darkest shade. This, what I am doing at the moment, is just using a colorless blender to blend in those different shades of green to make more smooth transitions. This process I repeated for all the elements which I have colored so far. Anyway, now putting little red details, as the idea was to create something like a storybook page project. I wanted a really bright and cheerful colors, but of course that all depends on the mood that you want to set for your project. Sometimes when coloring, your outlines can get dulled out a bit. So here I'm just using a black colored pencil to reinforce those lines. That really helps your images stand out, those bit more bold lines, but also helps with giving a little bit of shadow to your elements, and of course with that gives your elements some depth as well. If you're curious about how I tend to color with a bit more in-depth tutorial, I have something like that available on my channel, and I will try to remember to leave you the link for it. Here on the trunk of the tree I am trying to draw in those black and white patterns so the small trees would match the bigger ones. And here are all my elements that I colored so far. But now time for the hidden theme of my project. As you might know, over at the PaperArtsy they like to spice up their blog topics a bit. So beside the main topic, which is in this case books and journals, there is also a following theme, which is in this case hidden. And now is the time when I will show you how I incorporated that theme within my project. So as you can see with the pencil and a ruler, I have drawn the extensions to those stamped elements, because the idea was to make those tabs tuck in my book as some small hidden messages. Perhaps it sounds confusing a bit now, but you will see very soon what I mean when I start creating my hidden messages. Anyway, here are all my elements, fussy cut. But now let's create those secret messages. For the text I will use the same two stamps from PaperArtsy and Kate Crane that I use for my focal images. The titles of the stamps you can find in the description box under this video. Anyway, here you can see I am stamping the messages. Each little tab will have a different message, and this particular one is saying look for the beauty within. I will repeat the process for the rest of the tabs using the combination of the two already mentioned stamp sets. Now I didn't have enough sentiment stamps, so for one of them I'm just gonna draw and color in these 3 cute hearts. And for the last one I will make a very simple message. I will stamp the word home and draw 2 extra hearts for it. Now that these elements were done, it was time to start preparing my book. To be honest, I really didn't like the covers of the books that I have chosen. So I chose one of pretty wrapping papers from my stash to replace the cover. Now, this wouldn't have been necessary if I already had a book with a pretty hard cover. I mean, perhaps it wasn't necessary this way either, because it can't really be seen that much, but it was just bothering me, so I had to do it. Anyway, I won't bother you here with my wrapping process. I just want to show you the result. This was the original cover, and the cover that I have made a little bit unprofessionally, I might say, but it served the purpose. Now I made another, perhaps a bit unnecessary step. You see, the cover or the back part of the book can't be seen that much, but I know as I will adhere the pages it will be seen minimally. So it would have been enough to use the Mattints on the very edge of the paper, but for some reason here I am covering the entire page with Mattints. Oh, this particular Mattints is called the Dragonfly, really beautiful blue shade. So as you see, it would have been enough that I stopped here, covered the edge of the page, but I didn't. I went on coloring the full page, so just something to be aware. You will notice later I will mention another really silly mistake that I made. I guess this summer weather is really scrambling my mind a bit. But anyway, these are not irreparable mistakes, it doesn't really matter that much. Here I already started adhering my pages using stick glue. Now again, as I mentioned, I made here another mistake. It would have been enough that I adhere only the edge of the page, and it was completely unnecessary to cover the full surface of the page. It was simply a waste of glue, and it will later on complicate my process a bit, as you will see. I will mention it later on. But never mind, let's move on. Here the intention was to make little pockets for my hidden messages. As you can see, I already made one there with the mushroom on the top right corner, but now I want to demonstrate how I made it. So I took a simple piece of paper, folded it, and checked that it fits in with the width of my message. But it was also important to fit the depth of the message. So I folded it just enough that the stamp design would peek out of the book, and I am adhering it using the same stick glue. You can see here. measured. And this will be a safe spot for the message, while I will adhere the rest of the page over it. Now I will repeat the same process with this scrap piece of paper for the next message. Here is the moment where you can think how much you want your elements to peek out from the book. I think it would have looked nice if I made them peek a bit less. The reason why I made them stand out this much is just because I really like these tiny designs. But in general, I think this is just a matter of personal preference. And anyway, I will now continue adhering my pages until I reach kinda approximately half of the book. And then I will repeat the process for the other side of the book. Here you can see all the pages are adhered, and on both sides of the book I made pockets for my messages. But now I wanted to carve my book in a bit. For that I'm using a metal ruler and a paper knife, scalpel, how you call it? The idea behind this was to make the elements a bit more inside the book, not just sitting here on the surface, and to give a feeling as if you are entering this storybook world. Am I making sense? Anyway, I'm trying to carve not too deep, as I didn't want accidentally to cut into those pockets for the messages that I have previously made. And now when I try to take out these carved in pages, you will notice why it would have been wiser when adhering to stick to the edge of the paper. First, I wouldn't have damaged the writing like I did here. You can notice only the writing stayed only on the upper half of my page. And the other thing, I would have had so much book paper to use for other projects, so I was a bit annoyed with myself that I made such a silly mistake. But, I guess, never mind. Here I am just trying to fix my little mistake. But please keep that in mind when you are creating your own project like this. There is absolutely no need to adhere all the pages on the entire surface. First, it will be harder to take out the carved in pages, and the second, you will stay without so much beautiful old book paper to use for other projects. Now it was time to use the beautiful Mattints. I wanted to give a splash of color and a little bit more cheerfulness to my pages, so I decided to cover the whole pages with Mattints. Now, as you know, the Mattints are completely translucent, which means they are not covering the text. So this is the time where you should make a decision of what kind of effect you are going for. One option is to do it same as me and cover the book pages with Mattints, which leaves your background very busy and the book text very visible. Or other options is to cover with more opaque acrylic paint. Or another option to use gesso or white acrylic paint to push down a bit that text if you are afraid that your background will be too busy. To be honest, at this point I wish I did that. I wish I used a bit of gesso to push back that text, but it's really not that important. I was still happy with how my project turned out. I am just mentioning this so you can think about it and think about the effect that you want for the project. Oh, and again, another thing that you can think about, here I am putting the second layer of Mattints, but perhaps for some of you the one layer would have been enough. Anyway, again, just something to think about. And of course, me being me, I am adding some splatters, first with the same Dragonfly Mattints and with some white color. For this you can use gesso, white acrylic paint, or like me, white writing ink from Winsor & Newton. Now that all of that was dry, I decided to start planning my layout. This is the time where you can really go have fun, you can build multiple layers, give your project more or less dimension, whatever you imagine what fits project like this. Now, after watching this project, I so much regret I didn't draw a sun and couple of clouds, but there you go, just another idea for you. Here I am just trying to mix and match some elements until I find the combination that pleases me. And once I settled with the layout, I will adhere it all using a liquid glue. But when all was adhered, I felt like I have too much empty space. Exactly the space where some clouds and sun would have fit perfectly. But instead I decided to give my page a really nice and big sentiment, which also comes from Kate Crane's stamp sets. But then again, I still felt like something was still missing. That empty space was really bothering me, so I decided to do some more stamping and coloring, just to add a tad bit more color to the page. As you can see, I am using the same coloring medium that I used for the houses and trees. And I think this is really important that all the elements be colored with one same medium, because then it all somehow belongs together and it matches better. Here is those little flags, which I think really contributed to the page, and I really like how a little bit of color looks in that corner of the project. And that was the last step that I did for this project. I generally really like how this project turned out, though you noticed I do have some ideas how I would have done some things a bit differently. But at least I hope I managed to inspire you and gave you some ideas for your own projects. Here I am just trying to show you all not so secret hidden messages. And yeah, I really had fun creating this. And even my kids enjoyed this project and asked if they can keep it as a decoration for their own room. Anyway, that's it from me for today. Don't forget to check the PaperArtsy blog as well, and thank you so much for spending this time with me. Bye!